One of the fantastic opportunities of the Pledge project has been our ability to collect data and test theoretically driven hypotheses about the nature and structure of ressentiment-for grievance politics. At the heart of our theoretical framework lies ressentiment, and one of the key components of it has been the role of victimhood, particularly victimhood identities. So in Pledge we have the opportunity to explore different types of victimhood identities to see how they fit within ressentiment. One of the opportunities that we had a chance to examine with our survey data from Wave 1 and Wave 2 is the role of exclusionary victimhood identities in how people respond emotionally to political objects and different issues. One of the things that we did in this paper is that we try to operationalize in an agile, flexible way the way victimhood identities are experienced. So we looked at exclusionary victimhood identities that are mapped on the back of nationalist attachments, and we use these as proxies of how people identify as victims. This is a tool that is readily available in the field, and lots of scholars of victimhood identity have been employing it. So we've taken it on board with our survey questionnaire in both Wave 1 and Wave 2, and we wanted to see what its affective footprint is. We also wanted to find a smart way to distinguish perhaps different types of victimhood, and the hypothesis there is that when we think about victimhood, we could isolate its affective profile. We can look at what in the theory we have been discussing as paradigmatic victimhood, the type of victimhood identity where the individual feels they're a victim, their life has been determined by their victimhood experience, and contrast that with internalized experiences of victimhood that are ressentimentful. And in that context, we have been able to identify three types of victimhood identities. Victimhood identities on the left, victimhood identities on the right, and also dominant victimhood identities. So in this paper, effectively, we draw comparisons between a type of victimhood that we identify as paradigmatic victimhood, that is low on ressentiment, and three other types of victimhood identity which are driven or have high flavors of ressentiment in them. The ressentimentful victimhood of class dominance, let's call it that way, that's a better way to say it, ressentimentful victimhood on the left and ressentimentful victimhood on the right. And what we do in this paper is we contrast how these four different victimhood identity perceptions externalize themselves, manifest themselves in terms of emotions, in terms of political orientations, in terms of political preferences, and also psychological predispositions like authoritarianism or social dominance orientation. We also use some very interesting new measures on cynicism versus political kinetism. We also look at types of emotions that are really hard to discuss in the political field as emotions as envy, shame, humiliation, which we in our theoretical framework in Pledge discuss as the input emotions of ressentiment. And we also look at the role of these four victimhood identities in terms of output emotions like hatred or vindictiveness towards other groups. So these are emotions that are usually associated with anti-democratic or anti-social political practices. What we find is that there is significant statistical evidence that these four types of identities are distinguishable from each other. The null hypothesis is that they were not. If we didn't find any statistically significant differences comparing the group, that would mean there is no reason to explore it further. But what we found here is that these four groups have a different affective footprint. They relate to politics differently. Psychologically, the way they engage with politics also is driven by different, let's say, psychological predeterminants, and their preferences for political action or for political options varies significantly. Now this, you might ask why. Why is that interesting? It is really interesting because it helps us distinguish people who identify as victims, who feel victims, but are able to experience their victimhood with a non-destructive, not antisocial, emotional undercurrent, versus those who self-identify as victims but at the same time loathe anybody else around them. That has significant implications for policy because it allows us to be having a more refined, more delicate understanding of what the experience of victimhood means for the people that have this experience, but also what does it mean for policymakers when they are addressing it in the field. How it can be acknowledged, how it can be addressed, very much depends on the emotions it raises and the political preferences it's connected to.